Hey everybody, it's Crud Talk with Sonia, and I'm so glad tonight's the Oscar night, and I have all my bling on. Do you see? I'm totally decked out. I have my whole, I'll show you, I have my whole like dress. I have a gown on because I love the Oscars. I like movies, and so anyway, I've been enjoying it. I hope you have too. I am thrilled with what's going on. We have had some really great comments, really awesome number of people that have been viewing and weighing in and sending all the comments. So feel free to log in and leave your comments, leave your thumbs up, whatever. And I'm really glad you're here. So I'm going to jump right in. I have some questions that have been sent in from obviously some of the audience. And so we're going to hit that tonight. As I've read through several of the posts and just the different comments, I'm reminded that God is in control and that He is pursuing us even when we are trying to run. Amen. Oh my goodness. I've said this before. I don't know why Jesus has chosen to use me or any of us really. I have no idea. But I'm so grateful that He has and that He does. I make mistakes. I blow it a lot. I'm not a great mom. Many of you that know me know I'm really hard on myself when it comes to parenting because I really didn't have a role model, and I have to watch other people do their thing, and so I'm not a great mom. I'm certainly not a great wife. I'm not even really a good friend sometimes, and so I struggle and I try to be the boss of my own life instead of allowing Jesus to be the king. Amen. So in grace and mercy, Jesus forgives me and I'm able to move forward, and I try to live in a way that tries to please Jesus. That's my goal. I feel incredibly honored and humbled that 50 Shades of Grace is a place where Jesus gets the credit, and that the people are feeling that this is a safe place to share their stories and to begin to deal with their crud. So I got a question where I'm just going to go through some of these and answer them to the best of my abilities. And then I have something kind of fun about Oscar driven. But the first question is, how can I get someone to move on from the past hurt she is going through? And that's from Linda. I would just say this, that you can't get anyone, you can't get anyone to move on. They have to want to do that themselves. We can encourage, we can certainly do the most powerful thing we have in our arsenal, which is prayer. A lot of people think that's kind of the last resort. No, I say go for it first. Pray first. We can pray for them. We can live out our faith in front of those people that we love, in front of the relationships that Jesus has in our circle of influence. What I mean by that is we can have joy. We can live in victory instead of walking around whining, complaining, being negative. That a lot of that has to do with us. And so that is one way we can help people to move on from their past, is to stay positive and to have the joy that Jesus wants us to live. Who wants to be like somebody that's always negative, always discouraged, always bummed out? You know what I mean? I want to be infectious for God. So I guess that's my answer to that. My next question is, this is from a lady. My question is about sex. When I was 13, I was raped. He told me that no one would believe me if I told. I have anger and trust issues. I am now married but have struggled with having sex. I have flashbacks and I don't know how to tell him or how to move on from this. How are you able to have sex with your husband after everything you've been through? Help. That's a great question. I get asked this a lot. And obviously, we've had a talk about sex on Crud Talk. And so, as you know, I'm very open about it. And the Lord has me in ministry. I have sexual abuse in my past. And so, I don't know why He has me in the ministry that He does, but He has allowed it. And it's been really fulfilling, really rewarding in that when I share my vulnerability, when I share my failures, when I share my struggles or my shame or my sin or whatever, that gives people the permission, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. And so when it comes to sex, I really wish that Rick was here, but he kind of needs to be here to kind of answer some of that too. But to the best of my ability, how am I able to do that? the number one thing is I have Jesus in my life. My husband, Rick, also has Jesus in his life. That's the first and foremost thing. The second thing is I've worked hard on my crud. Remember what crud is. Crud is the emotional stuff left over from when somebody hurts us. And so I've worked really hard on that. I've also shared and communicated a lot over the years with Rick. And so I don't really keep stuff from him. And so ever, I mean, I just don't. And so we have an open communication between us. Another thing that I would say is God has given me a freedom and a love for intimacy and for wanting and needing to connect to somebody. And again, it's that old mindset of what man meant for evil, God will use for good. And I really firmly believe that. I feel like with all the abuse and the torture and everything that happened, God took something that was so dark and so evil and gave me a platform and gave me that grace, that way out to express that in a healthy, spiritual, totally godly way with a husband. Okay? And so, yeah, I mean, I give all the credit to the Lord when it comes to sex because He made it, He created it, He gave me my man, and He's taught me a lot. And I understand that there's a lot of you out there, even just in the nature of this question, there's a lot of you that struggle with that. There's a lot of people that really love one another, but they're not having sex. And I get that. And so I talk about that a lot. You can always check out my website, SoniaBruner.com. I talk a lot about that on my blog. It's called 50 Shades of Grace. And you'll see a lot of comments from both men and women in their comments about sex and the struggles that they have within their marriages and the lack of having sex. And so, and maybe there's some abuse issues or body image issues, or it just doesn't feel good. And so we talk a lot about that. So I just want to say, to final answer to that question is, it's Jesus that's given me the grace, the peace, and the avenue to pursue that and express myself in a safe way. The other thing I would say for that would be, I completely trust Rick. I trust him to not hurt me. I trust him to hold my heart in his hand. I've told him this so many times. He's the one that I trust the most on the earth. He's the one that I feel like he holds my heart, and he has the power to squish it. So he's got kind of a big job. Amen to the husbands out there. It's really a great honor and a huge responsibility to the men, right? And so, great question. Let's see. Let's go look at another question. Okay, here's a good one. When I was 19, I had an abortion. I struggled with guilt. I bet you it's so hard, right? I mean, I don't want to deal with it, so I try to move on without thinking about it, but I still feel so much guilt. How do I forgive myself? Wow, that's a good one. I know many women who made the choice to have an abortion and have tried to move on and to put it behind them. But what we find in many of those cases is that there is tremendous guilt, right? And maybe even more so as they maybe do end up meeting their spouse and getting married, and then they start a family. And so she's always feeling that pain of the baby that she had and ended up aborting. And so I would just say, let's talk about what forgiveness is, right? Forgiveness means that you look at the hurt of what someone did to us, okay? In this specific situation, the someone that hurt us was yourself. The choice that you made to have the abortion, you actually, not only did you hurt the baby and you hurt God, but you hurt yourself. And so how do you deal with the guilt? How do you forgive yourself? You have to look at the hurt. She said, I don't want to look at it. I just want to move on, and I can't seem to move on. Yeah, because you got to deal with your crud, or it will deal with you. So you look at the hurt that you did, feel it, grasp the hurt that happened to you, and then you release yourself from the debt that you owed. Does that make sense? Even in that forgiveness, I say we got to look at the hurt and we release those from the debt that we think they owe us. But when we are the ones that made the bad choice, we got to release ourselves from the debt. If you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, when you sin, the idea is you go right to Jesus. You go right to him and say, Lord, forgive me, help me to turn from that sin. That we call that repentance. It's kind of a big old word, but we turn, literally turn from our sin. So the idea is when we sin, we go right to Jesus and say, please forgive me, help me to turn from that sin. But then you also need to forgive yourself. So I guess that's how I would do that. That was a good one. That's a great question. Remember, people that are listening, if you haven't had an abortion or you can't check that off your list of the things you've done, just remember, we've all sinned. We've all sinned, okay? So I don't want to ever be in a position of judgment. We can't do that. The Bible's pretty clear on that, okay? And everything that I've done in my life as far as sin and the choices I've made, you all could, if you were judging me, you would have a lot of ammo to judge me because I've done a lot. And that hurts God. Sin, we can't take it lightly. Sin hurts God. And so my prayer would be for all of you that have struggled with abortion, that have made that choice. My prayer is that you would not hold on to the guilt. I talked about that last week. You would not hold on to the guilt, but your focus would be, Lord, what do you have for me? Here's my sin. Here's what I've done. Would you forgive me? And the Bible says he's faithful to forgive. So let me get on to another one. That's great. Let's see. I'm trying to find a good one here. This is kind of a good one. I struggle with jealousy. I get jealous of other women, of their looks, of their husbands, even their kids. I've even felt jealous of you. Me? That's what she says. Everyone's life seems better than mine. When I see everyone else getting what they want, I get jealous. How do I get over being jealous? That is good. I can't say I've never been jealous before, but I have a kind of a different attitude about that. I never imagine myself to have anything. I never imagine myself to have a husband or to have a home or to have kids or have a car to drive, or I just never imagined that for myself. So I am so thankful for what I have. I'm always still kind of shocked that I have what I have. I'm not a wealthy person, and I don't have the best or the fanciest in clothes, and I don't know. I'm just shocked at what the Lord has given me, and so I'm pretty content and pretty happy with that. Have there been moments in my life that I was jealous? Yes, I can give you an example. When I was in grade school, I auditioned for Wizard of Oz. Some of you know that's like my favorite. There was a girl that looked like Dorothy. Beautiful girl, brown hair, perfect freckles. And they chose her, even though I felt I sang better. She was delightful, and she was the right choice, and they made me the lion. So I tried to steal the show by being the funny one. I still kind of try to do that. But my point is that when that happened, I thought that they chose her because she was beautiful. And I wasn't pretty enough to play Dorothy in their eye. So they gave me a boy part, which was the lion. So I kind of carried that with me for a while. And I was really, on opening day for the play, I was really jealous. I remember just feeling so bad about myself. So yeah, I would just simply say this, that first of all, what is so bad about you? That would be my first question. If you struggle with jealousy, what is so bad about you? What do they have that you don't have? Are you a mean person? Do you walk around hurting people? Do you push people away? Or are you a kind person and have great relationships and friendships? What is it about the other people that you covet? The Bible's pretty clear that we're not to covet. And so what is it? I just start asking myself questions like, what is it that makes me, what is it that they have that I want? And then kind of start there. Also too, sometimes we got to get our focus off of ourselves and onto somebody else. And there are people everywhere that are hurting, that have little to nothing. And sometimes if I get in that zone where I'm starting to, why don't I have this? Or how come they got elevated and I didn't? Or what, you get in kind of that gerbil wheel where it's me, and you can't get off. And so I try to focus on helping other people. And it doesn't take you very long. When your focus becomes helping someone else, you start appreciating what you have, who you are, and what you have. My final thing would be on jealousy is that you got to learn how to love yourself. And if you're thinking always these negative thoughts and I don't have what they have and, oh, their life is so much better, I would start, again, asking myself the questions and then go from there, because you got to love yourself and you have to appreciate what you have. And nobody can do that for you. You got to get there. So I would just pray and ask God to help me with that. He is faithful to answer prayers. I'm telling you. When I've needed encouragement, I ask for that. When I've needed help with overcoming a sin, He's helped me with that. And so I would pray. That's the strongest weapon we've got. So great questions, you guys. Great. I would say also too, my heart is heavy. It's heavy tonight. Just this whole week has been filled with people being hurt and carrying heavy burdens and sharing their comments from last week. Last week was really powerful on Crud Talk, learn how to deal with our crud. And I heard from a lot of you, a lot of comments about that. And so I know God is moving. So what I would say is although my heart is very heavy, it's very hopeful too. And I love that. And so I guess I would just simply say to you that there's many of you that are in the fight of your lives. You are broken and beaten down, and you're in a situation that you never thought you'd be in. Some of you are keeping huge secrets. These are the secrets that are slowly killing you, not to mention destroying those around you. Maybe you've been waiting. I am a horrible waiter. Maybe you've been waiting. Hey, Susie. And you've been waiting and waiting for God to answer you. Waiting is not easy, right? It's not easy for me. It's probably not easy for any of us, right? The truth is, I don't know why God is not moving on the thing that you are desperate for Him to move on. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on, but I do know this. God is in control. He's fair. He is merciful, and He sees what we can never see, the big picture of truth. He's got a plan and a purpose and perfect timing. I've got to trust Him. I can hold my breath, throw myself down on the ground, kicking and screaming, or I can tell Jesus the truth of how I'm feeling, which is my crud, right? And I can ask Him to help me and trust Him. And if you could even ask Him, Lord, will you help me trust you? And He will. I can give up on Jesus and His word, or I can plant my face in the pages of His love story to me and soak up all the love that He has for me and for all of us. It's about choices, and we talked about that a lot last week. When things are hard, what will I choose to do? What will you choose to do? Just know you're not alone. Number one sinner failure right here. You aren't the only one to fall on your face. You aren't the only one who should have known better but didn't do better. There's at least two of us. Can I get an amen? Ooh. And finally, seeing that it's Oscar night, I'm seriously reflecting on God's goodness in my life. And I never want to forget what Jesus has done for me. Where I come from, or where I'm going, and how I got here. Part of that goodness of God is trusting His sovereignty, His wisdom, and His plan, even when it hurts. So, I need to find, let me find a statue. I'll use my bottle of water. This is my Oscar right here. So my acceptance speech for the role that I've been gifted the opportunity to play as I tell my story over and over to the world I guess if I had an acceptance speech, it would be this. I know this sounds crazy, but stick with me. In many ways, I need to thank the ones who hurt me. If you wouldn't have done what you did to me, I would have never heard about Jesus, learned the truth, believed the truth, understood that I am truly loved, given my life to Jesus, found joy, felt peace, had security, been forgiven, been free. And I never would have shared my story. And I wouldn't be able to declare that you did not, could not win. Jesus won. He's the one who won. He won my heart, my mind, and my life. With every painful word you spewed in my face, with every slap, punch, curse word, burn, touched, whip, rape, you tried to invade, control, and destroy me. But you didn't do it. You couldn't do it. Why? Because he who is in me is greater than he that is in the world. Let me say that again, because there's people out there that need to hear this. He who is in me is greater than he who is in the world. So I thank you. I thank you for what you did to me. I know that sounds weird. I thank you for what you did to me. Not for the pain, but for the scars of lessons that I learned. And for the lifelong reminder that nothing is greater than he who is in me. Nothing. I don't know if there's anyone out there that needed to hear this, but I'm just telling you, the Oscars are great, and I love all their dresses and all they get to dress up. I just would like to go and just get out of the limo and walk on the red carpet, right? And get the dress and the whole pampering. I think that would be so fun. So I guess I would just say there's someone out there that needs to thank the person that hurt them, and to remember that God has been good. You're not alone, and anything is possible with God. And that is 50 Shades of Grace. You've been a great audience. Thank you for my for my water. I love you guys. Thanks for your comments and for sharing the videos and all the views. And it's just been really cool. See you next week.